to our channel. Ruth here, and in today's video I'd like to share with you 7 mindsets of people who are financially free. So let's get started. Mindset number 1, letting go of limiting beliefs. Now I understand that sometimes with life, traumatic experiences or failures might have happened in the past, but it's so important that we actually really consider those things as the past and being able to let it go. And sometimes I think there's also limitation upon ourselves, in terms of poverty mindsets. I remember when I graduated from law school, I had a huge study loan that I had to pay for, and I remember walking into like a grocery store in Australia, and I was actually going shopping with my boyfriend, who is now my husband, and we had 2 trolleys because we weren't living together at the time till we got married. But anyways, we had 2 different trolleys, so he took me out on grocery shopping, and I would pick everything that was home brand. Now in Australia, if you've been here, you could have gone to some of the traditional grocery stores where you can actually buy a product, which is, let's say, a can of soup, which is $4. But if you buy home brand, which is their personal brand, it's $1. So everything I bought, from toothpaste to cereal, every single thing was home brand. So when I got to the counter, everything was like black and white on the packaging. And then my husband, who's my boyfriend at the time, he looked over and said, "Why do you buy everything home brand?" Now obviously there's nothing wrong with home brand products, okay? And if you listen to some of my other videos on how to become financially free, I talk about switching over brands. As long as you're not compromising the quality, it's still a good product or good food, then that's fine. But I think what my husband was trying to tell me at the time was, Ruth, why do you buy everything home brand? Because at the time, believe it or not, even though I was a full-on qualified lawyer, I had a full-time job as a lawyer, I had a poverty mentality, and the interesting thing was I felt like I was almost like a replica of my mom. Now, my mom is a very generous person. She would buy the most expensive things, food. She would donate them to my school, and, she would give them to my teachers and help the poor out. She would spend money on everybody else except for herself. So I think to a certain extent, I saw that growing up. My dad was the opposite, actually. He would spend money on what he wants, but I saw that, and I think I sort of thought to myself, well, I felt like I didn't deserve buying something for myself, whereas for someone else I could easily give away money. I remember I've done different things. I hope the people whom I've done these things for will never find out, but I remember I didn't have a lot of money at the time. I had a huge study loan, but I saw that one of my colleagues was actually struggling financially. She had a new baby at the time. So what I did was I went to the bank. I took out my savings, all of my savings. I think it was about $3,000 at the time, and I gave it to the manager of the firm that I work for, and I said, "Can you give this money to her, but don't tell her that it's from me. Just say that someone had anonymously given it to you." So I was generous in that sense, but when it came to myself, I still had a poverty mindset because I felt like I didn't deserve, having a better lifestyle, or being financially free or something like that. Even though at the time I didn't actually realize that, but in hindsight, it's actually really interesting because I had to let go of limiting beliefs. And so after a couple of years, I married my husband, and eventually he began to help me through the journey of getting rid of poverty mentality. And so we began to dream as a family. We said, what, we might have this debt here and this debt there, but we're going to work hard, and we're going to actually begin to envision ourselves being debt free. And that was exactly what we did. And you know what? My life has never been the same again. So what about you? Is there any limiting belief that's limiting you from actually being financially free? If so, it's time to let that go, and it's time for you to actually have a new vision. Number 2, the second mindset that the financially free have is they think that money is actually good, money is not evil. Now that's really interesting because I personally, I grew up in Sunday school. So, we talk about money and all that. And so, going to Sunday school, they talk about how, the love of money is the root of all evil, and that's actually true. It's actually in the scripture, right? But the thing is, at the end of the day, I think it's important to think that money itself is actually not evil. But when you begin to actually look at money as if it's everything, and you forget about your values, you forget about, compassion, you forget about everything else, that's where it becomes evil, because it will take control of you. But instead, if you learn how to take control of money, money can actually be a very, very good servant. For example, before when I first graduated from law school, I had huge debts. I feel like I couldn't do much for, a lot of people. Whereas now, my husband and I are in a position where on a monthly basis and a yearly basis, we support, orphanages in Africa. In fact, one of the orphanages is actually run by his uncle, because he's African. And we feel like we are in a position to actually do more good than when we were poor. So I think it's important that we begin to think, hey, money is actually not evil, but money, obviously, if, it can be abused, because the thing is, you can use it for good purposes or bad purposes, but it's important for us to have that switch in mentality and say money in itself is not evil as long as we hold on to our values. Number 3, the financially free celebrate those who are successful and rich. Now this is interesting because, I'm not sure about you, but growing up sometimes, I would sit in the presence of elders and aunties and uncles, or I don't know, just, friends or people who are older than me. And I feel like sometimes there's almost like this innate jealousy, if somebody else, kids do very well, or they get sent to the USA to, have this education, or someone bought them a house, it's almost like it's a bad taste. It's almost like it's a little bit bitter in that conversation, because they're, I don't know, maybe jealous, or they feel like, oh, how dare you live an amazing life in my expense. But I think it's important that at the end of the day, we celebrate others' success, right? My husband and I, many, many years ago, we were financially, we were not where we are today. But I remember, if we see someone driving a really nice car or a really nice house, we don't criticize them. We say, well, good for them. That's a really nice car. That's a really nice house. We're so happy that they are able to live that kind of lifestyle. And you know what? We always say to ourselves, one day that's going to be us. We're going to work hard and we're going to get there. So I think it's important that we have that kind of mentality, instead of criticizing the rich and the powerful. I mean, and I understand that, we are entitled to have our own opinions, but I think as much as possible, it's important for us to actually have that switch in attitude and in that mentality, because that's where we begin to attract to become financially free. Number 4, have a clear vision for your future. Now, I think this is actually probably the foundation of you wanting to become financially free, because if you have a clear vision, you know exactly where you're headed. But if you don't have a clear vision as to how it can look like when you become financially free, then it's almost like you don't know, or rather things are not going to work as well to actually get to your destination. So I would really urge you to actually make a vision board and say, when I'm financially free, what kind of lifestyle will you be living? What kind of house will you be living in? Does it mean that you're completely debt free? Does it mean that your kids might be able to, have greater opportunities? Maybe you can actually take them, on a really cool family vacation, on a cruise perhaps, So whatever it might be, make sure your vision is clear, and don't be afraid to dream. And you don't have to announce it to everyone else that, this is what I'm going to do. Because sometimes people might get jealous and start to say things about you. So you can just keep it in your bedroom and say, this is my vision board, this is my vision. I want to be financially free. I want to leave a legacy behind and provide a better future for my children. Number 5, have a working plan. Now, it's so important that you begin to set clear goals and make sure these goals are actually realistic. I always say that if my vision is, let's say in 5 years time, I want to be doing this, right? Usually it's a bit of a vague, goal. It's like a dream and a desire, right? But every year before the year starts, I'll actually look at the calendar and say, well, by the 31st of December, at the end of this year, what do I want to see myself achieve? What could I have done that will take me one step closer to actually living my dream in the next 5 years or 10 years? And then I begin to work backwards and go, well, in the month of January to March, I'm going to be working on this project. In the month of April to June, I'm going to be working on that, and so on and so forth. I even plan it down to the weeks. And then in that month, I say, okay, well, this month I'm going to focus on this. And then that week, I'll sit down and go, okay, what do I have for my week? So at the moment, for example, I'm a partner in a law firm. I've been a lawyer now here in Australia for about 13 years. But at the same time, I run a couple of different businesses, including a business consulting firm, a coaching business, etc. And I dabble in a couple of things in the music industry, etc. But the thing is, I've got other goals and other plans that I want to achieve, and even though financially we're in a stable position, we want to actually attain more in the future so we can actually do more, not just for our family, but also for the community. So I will even look at my calendar for the week and say, well, on a Tuesday evening between the hours of 6 and 8, I'm going to block out my calendar. It's non-negotiable. I'm going to work on my dreams, because, at the end of the day, success comes not just by intensity, but it comes by consistency. Every single bit counts. So definitely have a working plan. Make sure you set realistic goals. Number 6, people who are financially free will actually find their purpose and why they're doing it. So it would be my uttermost recommendation as well that you find your purpose and why you're doing it. So ask yourself the question, well, I want to be financially free, but why am I doing it? Am I doing it for the family so that I can spend more time with them? Am I doing it for the family so that, am I doing it? So you need to actually find a purpose that is bigger than yourself, because that's the one thing that is going to keep you motivated when things get tough. Because believe it or not, when you begin to pursue financial freedom, you're going to see some setbacks, some challenges, and that's life. It's like a roller coaster. But you need the one thing, that vision and that purpose, that why, that's going to keep you going steady and consistently. And finally, number 7, the financially free have the mindset of thinking before they spend. Now that's interesting, because a lot of people think that rich people would just spend anything. Well, some rich people do because they have the ability to do so. But most people who are self-made, like I'm talking about self-made multimillionaires, self-made billionaires, they think before they spend. They look at what's necessary and what they want, and they usually buy cash. If they don't have the cash to buy it, and they have to get into debt and put in a credit card, they choose not to do that. They will wait until they have the money to actually spend it. So those are 7 mindsets of the financially free, and I really hope that you too can become financially free in your desired time frame. So I hope that was helpful. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch the video. And before you go, would you be so kind to hit the like and subscribe button so it can keep you motivated, and it's going to mean the world to me. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye.